New Jerusalem House of Prayer, it's an unusual name. Tell me a little bit about your congregation, your experience.
It is the first Anglican Messianic congregation in the United States and the second one in the world. The first one is Christ Church in the old city of Jerusalem, which was actually built in 1850. So it took a couple hundred years for the second one to be created, and it's in West Chicago. One of the women that served in my congregation, an Anglican priest now, and the head of a healing ministry, currently studying for a PhD at Fuller in Pasadena, came into the office one day raving about this man, John Armstrong, that she had met. And she might have been in one of your cohorts, I'm not sure, but she said, "You've got to meet this guy." And I remember thinking, I know who John Armstrong is. I'm not sure I do want to meet him or have coffee with him, because the previous encounters I'd had were in a completely different context of some ministers in Wheaton, and I just didn't find their theology very sympathetic to people who weren't just exactly like them. So I was not a fan of that ministry and really didn't like John very much. But Jesse said, no, he's doing this amazing thing on Christian unity. You really do have to meet. So I went there. I think Rebecca came with me. She's my associate pastor. And we talked, and I liked everything I heard. And I thought, this is a very different man than the one I knew 10 years ago. And so that was actually how we reconnected. And I came to one of your Unity Factor forums, and then later one of your cohorts. And I found both of those very redeeming and with a strong passion for reconciliation between people of different forms of faith in Jesus Christ. And what I discovered there was something that was true in my own heart as well, and that was that the denomination and the particular worship practice of the individuals mattered far less than whether they understood the love teachings of Jesus, to love God, to love neighbor as oneself, to do unto others as you would have them do unto you, to care for even those who you would otherwise despise, like the Good Samaritan did. Those all, to me, were the key teachings of Jesus, and anybody who followed him because of and in order to follow those teachings, to me, they're my friend. And they are the builders of the kingdom.
You were on the board of Act 3, and so you were at Green Lake 2 years ago when the president says, "I'm going to retire," and you did something after a break. Tell us what you did.
What I remember doing is I said something like this: I don't believe that the ministry that John has started is just something that should last as long as he does it. That the process of building real friendships, deep, abiding, would give my life for you kinds of friendships, leaping across barriers of denomination and tradition and worship type and polity, just sort of blowing past all of those and finding other people who were dedicated followers of Jesus and building friendships with them, that I believed that was an extraordinary charism that you had. It was almost your DNA. But I believed that movement shouldn't stop because you'd reached some certain age and wanted to retire. And that rather what God would probably desire is that DNA be transmitted to others, that it be taught and caught. And that way, if you look at the result of one man and all of the connections that he's made in the Christian community, and if you take that charism and transmit it to others, then those same kinds of outreaching circles begin in many other places. And it goes from one man's campaign to a multiplying, exploding growth process where that initial DNA is transmitted and communicated, and the process of making friends with all the followers of Jesus so that his love, the love that we learn from him, might exceed all of our divisions, that ought to be something which gets passed on rather than sort of finishes up or dies with the retirement of the first person who had that vision. And therefore, and actually I think the Spirit said this to all of us, because we experienced the almost uninvited presence of the Holy Spirit. He came because he chose to. Jesus says the wind blows where he wills, the Spirit blows where he wills. We realize that the administrative responsibilities and even the fundraising responsibilities that John had for his own ministry could be given to others. He could remain the fire carrier, so that in one sense he retires of those things which are really special burdens, but the one thing which for him is almost life-giving, he could remain the fire carrier and the trainer of that, so that others could learn to do what he had done, and then this vision would spread. I've long believed that it really didn't matter what part of the church worldwide you were in, whether you were a Coptic Christian, an Orthodox, a Roman Catholic, a Protestant of its 30 some odd thousand different stripes, that it didn't matter which one you found yourself either living in or most comfortable in, so long as your fundamental identity was as someone who wanted to live the teachings of Jesus. And if you did that, then to me, you're one of his followers. And the other particulars, the distinctives of your individual walk, if they make you happy, then I'm happy for you. I don't feel an obligation to adopt them as my own, but I can respect you and love you as a follower of the same Lord that I follow. And so to come into a room of 65 or so people from many of those different streams of Christianity and hear the same heart from each of them as they share their own journeys and their own loves, and even the denomination they love being a part of, but also to see that every one of them, ultimately, the most important thing in their life is the one that they follow.
Or you've experienced some of that this week in other people.
Very much, over and over and over again, from many different points of view. And not once did I experience from any of them any sense of either condescension or condemnation that the worship that I was a part of was somehow inferior to the one that they were a part of. And in fact, if anything, they were curious about the kind of worship that I really enjoy and thrill in, even though it's not the same as theirs.